What is up, ladies and gentlemen? But most of all, you ladies out there, thanks for clicking on another episode of Break the Silence. I am your host, Cyborg, John Morant, Anthony Edwards. Split cap! We just got done watching what was for me a highly anticipated basketball game between the Memphis Grizzlies and the Minnesota Timberwolves. This is for obvious reasons. They feature two of the best young stars in the NBA. Anthony Edwards on the Minnesota Timberwolves and Ja Morant on the Memphis Grizzlies. Both of those guys came to play tonight, and the Minnesota Timberwolves took the win 111-100. This was the Grizzlies' fifth straight loss. And this for the Timberwolves made them 10-4 in their last 14. They've been playing much better basketball as of late. We're going to talk about both sides of this game. I want to focus a little bit on the Timberwolves tonight because we haven't spent a lot of time doing that as they've kind of struggled a lot of the season. They've had guys in and out of the lineup. But tonight, obviously, you're missing Karl Anthony Towns. On the Grizzlies side, you're missing Desmond, Bane. So you're missing significant pieces. But we're going to talk about these teams, how they've been playing lately, and what's making the Timberwolves maybe start to turn this season around. With this win tonight, they moved up to the 7 seed in the Western Conference, and that puts them one game out of the 4 seed. Right there in the Western Conference is so close, so these games matter. These games are important. Going on a little run here, and you could easily see yourself in home court advantage in the playoffs, and that would be massive for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Before we get into the game, take a second to subscribe to the channel. We are up over 900 subscribers, and we are headed for 1,000. So if you could please take a second to hit that little button, that would be greatly appreciated. You can see we're doing NBA content almost every night. We're talking about a lot of teams in the NBA, a lot of players, and, join the squad. It's a lot of fun. Love to have discussions with y'all in the comments as well. So any of your thoughts, let me know. So Anthony Edwards tonight had 25 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. Kyle Anderson had 23 points, and that's funny because he actually played for the Memphis Grizzlies and now plays for the Timberwolves. D'Angelo Russell had a good game, had 19 points. And then the Timberwolves got some production off their bench. This was a game that featured a lot of turnovers. The Minnesota Timberwolves had 19, the Memphis Grizzlies had 20. So 39 turnovers between the two teams. You got to clean that up. But the Minnesota Timberwolves have been playing basketball much better as of late. And why is that? That's because they have a budding young superstar in Anthony Edwards that we saw come on the national stage last year in the playoffs against this very Memphis Grizzlies team and play at an extremely high level. This was a series that went back and forth last year that if Minnesota didn't have a couple collapses down the stretch, very well could have won that series. At times it looked like they were going to win that series. And what we saw time and time again was Anthony Edwards and his elite ability to shoot on the pull-up. That's one of the hardest shots in the NBA, to dribble up the court, hit a pull-up three-point jump shot. And last year in the playoffs, he was money with it. In the last 20 games, Anthony Edwards is averaging 27 points, 6.1 rebounds, 5 assists on 46% shooting and 37% from the three-point line. So Anthony Edwards is playing basketball like an elite top 10 player. If he keeps this up for a season, if you score 27, 6, and 5 for a season, you're in that talk for top 10 player in the NBA. And so Anthony Edwards has really come into his own here, and that's why we've seen them win 10 of their last 14 games. Anthony Edwards this season is up in points in the paint from 8.3 last year to 10.2. So he's taking the ball to the basket a lot more, which I love. Players playing to their strength. A lot of times, guys it's hard to go to the basket over and over and over again and take the beating that comes with going to the basket over and over again. And sometimes you're a little overconfident in your three-point shot. But if he gets to the point where he's shooting quality three-point looks and he's taking the ball to the basket and using his elite size, elite athleticism, and elite finishing ability, Anthony Edwards is going to be one of the best players in this league. And I'm so high on Anthony Edwards. Before the season, I did my top 50 ranking, and I had Anthony Edwards at 19, I believe, 19 or 21. Right in that range between 19 and 21, and I believe I was higher on Anthony Edwards than almost anyone else. But I believe he's that good. For the season, he's averaging 24.5 points, 6 rebounds, and 4.5 assists. So you can see those stats I read in the last 20 starting to tick up, especially in the points. 2.5 is a significant difference. Now, this Minnesota Timberwolves team obviously has had its ups and downs this season. It's 26-25, like I said, 7 seed in the Western Conference. The great thing about that is, one, you made massive changes to your roster. And then Karl Anthony Towns went down. So you've had to experiment with so many different lineups, have so many different guys play together, and it's totally understandable that a team would struggle to start the season. What you want to see is them start to turn that ship around about mid-season, and that's exactly what we've seen heading into the second half of the year. Post All-Star break is when we start to see teams really ramp it up going into the playoffs. So adding Rudy Gobert, obviously, this is a massive addition. One of the biggest moves of the offseason. Donovan Mitchell obviously went to the Cavs. Rudy Gobert goes to the Minnesota Timberwolves from Utah. And Rudy Gobert, to start this season, honestly, has struggled a little bit. He's down in points, field goal percentage, rebounds, and blocks from last year. And some of those things are a testament to trying to figure out how to play with Cat, trying to figure out how to play with Anthony Edwards, D'Angelo Russell, some of those other guys. But some of those things should not be greatly affected, especially with how many games Cat has missed. The rebounds and the blocks being down is pretty surprising from Rudy Gobert, who we know to be an elite defensive player, at least in the regular season. And be interesting to see how Gobert finishes out this season. Tonight, he only had 7 points, but he had 13 rebounds and 3 blocks. So tonight, the Timberwolves played really good on defense. What we've seen from them this year is they're 16th in offensive rating, 13th in defensive rating, and they're 27th in rebounding, 27th in turnovers. So they turn the ball over to high clip. They're struggling to rebound a little bit, and they're about middle of the pack in offensive defensive rating. Last year, they were 7th in offensive rating and 13th in defensive rating. That's went the wrong direction, obviously, a little bit. And last year, they were a contender for the second round of the playoffs. But to me, overreacting and saying that the Timberwolves, this is absolutely not going to work, is a little over the top. Now, I did have concerns watching Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns play together. That did not look like something that was going well. But when you're trying massive chemistry experiments, trying 2 guards together, for instance, in Cleveland, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, 2 primary ball handlers, Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant, that chemistry experiments, things that is a little against the grain in the NBA, it's going to take some time to figure out, 1, how to coach those guys to space the floor, and 2, how to flip those guys are supposed to play with each other, defensive rotations, switching, rebounding, boxing out, offensively, who's the screen man. A lot of times early in the season when you had Cat and Gobert, I would see D'Angelo Russell dribble the ball up the court, and both guys would come up, set a screen on separate sides, and that's a really interesting offensive play. But how does that work in the modern NBA? These are all questions that we got to watch to see. It'll be interesting to see once Karl Anthony Towns returns to this lineup, where they go from there. Do the Timberwolves try to make a move? I guess is another question. Really, your trade assets, Anthony Edwards to me is absolutely untouchable. He's one of the most untouchable players in the NBA. Rudy Gobert, you just traded for all the assets you gave up. You absolutely, at this point, can't trade Rudy Gobert. So what are some of the other guys? D'Angelo Russell's been playing at a pretty high level as of late. In the last 10 games, averaging 19.8 points, 5.6 assists. So is that someone that you believe can consistently play well when you have all your guys healthy? And that's a big if for D'Angelo Russell, because in his career, there's been times that I've been really high on D'Angelo Russell and times I've been really low. And he's a guy that I feel like I've been wrong on about 10 times. That as soon as I write him off, he starts to play really well. And as soon as I am all in on D'Angelo Russell, he kind of goes through a stretch where you're like, you scored 7 points tonight and you missed 14 shots. Like what? He's a very up and down basketball player, but as of late, he's been playing consistently. So if D'Angelo Russell can continue to play at this level, Anthony Edwards can play like a superstar and play like a budding top 10 NBA player, I think this Timberwolves team is scary. And I think in the Western Conference, when there's a lot going on, Denver at the top, I think, is very good. Memphis, you've lost 5 games in a row. We'll get to them in 1 second. Sacramento, awesome story. not 100% sold on Sacramento yet. We'll kind of see how that develops. Pelicans dealing with injuries. Clippers dealing with, whatever, Kawhi and Paul George, whatever you want to call that. Dallas is not very good in my opinion. Phoenix dealing with injuries. Golden State will be good. We would assume, as long as they can stay healthy. And then you go from there. But so this conference is wide open. So if you're the Timberwolves, if you have the ability to get to that 4 seed and get home court in the first round, and you end up playing someone like the Mavericks or you play the Pelicans, a series that you could compete in, you get yourself in the second round, and you're in the final 8 teams in the NBA. If you're in the final 8 teams, that's 1, a step forward, and 2, you're right there. You're right on the precipice, 1 or 2 moves from being real contenders. Moving on to the Grizzlies. I am a little concerned losing 5 games in a row. The Grizzlies talk a lot of trash, and let me tell you, Ja Morant and this Grizzlies team is one of the most fun teams in the NBA to watch, and Ja's one of the most fun players in the NBA to watch. But they talk so much trash that every night someone is out to get them. And when you have guys out, Desmond Bane's missed a lot of games this year, and I totally understand that. Desmond Bane was playing at an all-star level if it wasn't for his injury. And Ja Morant for the season averaging 27 points, 8 assists, and 5.5 rebounds. I actually believe that Ja Morant should have been an all-star starter. I think he should have had the spot over Steph. But this team, you're just starting to struggle as of late. In your last 5 games, you lost to the Lakers to start it off when they had that fiasco with Shannon Sharp. Then you lost to the Suns, who are beat up, the Kings, Warriors, Timberwolves. Those are 5 Western Conference losses. Ja Morant came out in that interview and said, I'm not worried about anyone in the West. Well, you should be. Those are the teams you got to beat. Getting to the finals is a massive feat. If you get to the finals, you got a chance to win it all. But you got to worry about those teams in the West and take them seriously. And so I think I would like to see Memphis start to, I don't even think you need to be humble necessarily, but at least take these games seriously and take where they are this season seriously. Because if you fall in the playoffs anymore, you could end up being in a spot you don't want to be. Whereas of right now, you're the 2 seed, you'd be playing potentially Phoenix or Utah or someone like that. If you fall to the 3 or the 4 seed, you could end up playing Minnesota or the New Orleans Pelicans, or actually a quality basketball team. So really important that the Grizzlies start to get their crap together and turn this ship around. Overall, very entertaining basketball game to watch. Ja Morant, Anthony Edwards. I'm a huge fan of both. I love watching both of these guys play basketball. I can't tell you how excited I am at all the young talent in this league. It really gives me hope for just basketball going forward. Every night you get to watch a star, a Luka Doncic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, Anthony Edwards, Ja Morant. These are young guys. These are guys that are going to dominate basketball for the next 10 years. And I just can't wait to continue to watch. Appreciate y'all watching the channel. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as we do more basketball content. I believe we have a big game between Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid tomorrow that I'm super pumped for. We will react to that accordingly. Cyborg out.